Ooh. Hello and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. That was my rendition of a theme song for this episode, since I am remote, as it were, and just can't really do the whole kind of Magilla that I've been trying to do. So, jeepers, gosh, it's like I'm dying. I had the same problem with the last podcast, so I apologize. Um, So as I say, I am Chris Ringler, writer, once in a while filmmaker, occasional scribbler, all around weird guy, living in Flint, Michigan. This is my podcast. So hey, hi, welcome. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. How you doing? As I said, I am remote as well. I am here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, for the 2019 Stoker Con. So I figured it's end of day two. Well, for me, it's the end of day two. Let's just be square there. It's gonna go a little later, but for me, it's the end of day two. So I figured I'd kind of give you my thoughts. It's been, it's been a while since I did a show like this. I mentioned in the last podcast that I had done. I went to World Horror Con in 2005, um, and World Horror Con is kind of a spiritual predecessor to this, in that it was a big world horror writers association kind of shindig, that honored horror and horror authors, and they would give awards, and a lot of the same things that are going on here went on there. Like there was a mass signing, there are classes, there are panels. World Horror actually had kind of, like, I went and watched Mick Garris read short stories, which just bored me to tears. Super nice guy, but bored me to tears though. Um, and like I say, they had the mass signing and stuff, and they did different things differently. No, go fig. It was a different show, but like I remember they did the gross out story contest, and that was interesting to say the least. Where you kind of would go up, and memory serves you, they did it off the top of their head. Kind of making up a gross out story, and it was pretty great. Uh, they didn't have, like they have here. They have rooms to do readings. There it was just kind of one reading that a bunch of us did readings at. So it's all the same but different. I'm not a fan of Grand Rapids. I have to be honest. Uh, I'm not a big fan. I'm sure it's lovely. I just am not a fan. The hotel this place is in, it's the Grand, the Amway Grand or something. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. There's a reason I'm staying at a Motel 6 and not there, because it was like the discount rate was $150 a night. And no, that's like almost $100 more a night than I'm paying. So no, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I would love to see what the rooms look like, because, like I say, and it's immense. Getting in there when I first arrived was just getting around Grand Rapids was a mess, but getting inside, in there and finding the place was just crazy. Because again, it's just, now that I've been wandering around there, I kind of know where we're at. It's an immense place, though, and really gorgeous chandeliers and beautiful carpets, and just like stunning place. So it's interesting, and it's interesting, like, hearing people talk about how different it is than, say, like, I guess they did one in Vegas, and how different it is to that. World Horror had been at a big hotel that I stayed at, actually, and it was nice, but it wasn't. I mean, this is opulent. Like, this is gorgeous hotel. And so far it's a nice show. The guy that I've dealt with, a gentleman named Brian Matthews, who's a writer, has been super great. It's been well run. Everything I've seen has been super smooth. Getting set up and in was no problem. The vending space. I mean, it's a dealer room, but I'm a vendor. I'm not a dealer. Gosh, maybe there's 15 vendors. Very very kind of spotty foot traffic. Um, and again, I don't know if that's anything here or there. I think it's just. I mean, I knew going in. Um, I didn't expect to sell a lot of books because it's an authors convention. So you know, you're kind of you're preaching to the choir, as it were. So I really hadn't have any expectations. I've been surprised and have sold some books, which has been kind of a great bonus to me. More than anything, it's I want to meet people, and I have, and that's been fantastic. That's always kind of the fun of doing these shows is the networking and meeting people, and I know some of the people that are vending, so that's been cool. Um, Yesterday, like I ain't really gotten to see anything outside of the vending space. I went and saw the opening ceremonies, and that was nice. It was just like a speech, basically, but it was nice. It was kind of cool. It's interesting because they had mentioned because Josh Mallerman's one of the main kind of guests of honor here. He's Michigan born, and he's kind of the wunderkind at the moment. Um, and you definitely see that. They did a mass signing today, and I mean, he had the longest line that I saw. Like he basically for the hour and a half, like there was people waiting in line for him the whole time. So and good for him. Like he's young enough that like it's one of those things where it's he's found some fame and notice and isn't an old guy. So it does happen once in a while, which is cool. Um, and the crowds have been great. Like everybody's been really friendly, like super nice. Not met anybody, being jerks. Haven't met anybody kind of giving tood. It's been really, really nice. The cool thing about being at shows like this is that, I mean, because I've been doing shows like conventions and things since 1994. And all of them are different. Everyone has a different feel. Like art shows are a little different than comic conventions, are a little different than book shows, um, are a little different than punk rock shows. Kind of DIY shows. So they all have their own personalities. And writer shows are interesting. It's interesting. And you get it with art shows and everything, but lots of egos, lots of posturing, lots of putting on airs. And it's funny because, I don't, that's one of the things I just don't have. I don't have, towards my writing, I don't have an ego. And that's not a humble brag. I just don't. Um, because I don't know. I guess I'm one of those people who doesn't think that it's that special. I think anybody can write. I think it's just a matter of, honing honing it into a skill, a talent into a skill, and honing it from there so you excel at that skill. Like anybody can work wood, anyone can paint. It's just how much time and effort you want to put into it. So I mean, it's one of those things that I don't. And I mean, I've never had any real success per se. So I mean, maybe it'd be different if I was a successful author. Maybe I'd put on airs and be a jackass. I'm not sure. But it's funny, there was someone today they're up for an award. I met a couple of award nominees. Well, I met one, and I guess I was around the other one, and they just came off very. It was funny. They talked to another person that's a nominee, and it was a very standoffish kind of conversation on their side, like very. And the person has been nominated before for awards, so maybe it's a kind of a like they just want to win and they're tired of being not winning. So it's just kind of and it's that kind of gamesmanship, I guess. The competition, but it was interesting, and they're just very awkward. And again, like at first blush, I was put off by how they had acted. And then I watched them a little later, and realized how many of us come from a background. I mean, writing is a solitary thing. How many of us wrote and got into writing because we were, we felt screwed up and broken, and like we needed an outlet. We needed a way to kind of purge the demons almost. And we, I think when you do these shows, you kind of put on an armor of errors. And I mean, I know for me, like, it's funny because I'm to a point where I'm still real kind of fragile about the self-publishing thing, but I'm just so over it also. It's nice that, like, I've heard people talk about self-publishing and stuff, and I was expecting, and I'm gonna be brutal and frank, and I'm gonna be me. And this, for this one podcast, is I've expected people to be shitty to one another and be kind of very shitty about self-publication. A lot changed since '05, for sure, in the mentality of self-publishing versus the vanity press and blah blah blah. And I have distinct opinions on all of that, and as I've mentioned before in previous podcasts, and I think it's a bullshit attitude to throw shade at self-publication, because again, if you're going to tell me putting your own poems out, putting your own records out, putting your own art out, all this stuff has some sort of dignity and grace, and self-publication is about jacking yourself off, then I'm going to tell you you're full of shit. That's exactly what that is. The market will tell who the better talent is, or who has a better story to tell. Like, let's face it, there are some people who just aren't talented but have a good story to tell. That's part of the market. Me, I don't sell a lot. Could be one of a million factors, but I mean, the market just ain't interested, and that's cool because I sell once in a while, and I'm cool. I'm cool with it. Like, I know kind of where I'm at. But it's been cool though, because I haven't heard people talking shit about it. One of the people I met, this really lovely gentleman from Wales who's a nominee, and his is self-published, and that's fantastic. That's great to hear, because I mean, that was one of the things I had looked trying to get into the Horror Writers Association a long time ago, and they wanted these kind of, they have like all of these their rules and stuff to become a member. They want legitimate like publications you've been in and this and that, and I mean, I have a few. But I mean, one, I don't think it's enough, and two, like, I'm self-pub. I don't think they'd ever give a shit about me. So I came into the weekend kind of knowing I'm an outsider, and I'm cool with that. Like, that's not what it was about, And it's funny, like the reason I even found out about this show. So last year I went to a reading, of some of the stuff from Paperbacks from Hell. And it was one of those weird occurrences. I went with a couple of friends, and that author was there. Kathy Koja was there. Josh Mallerman was there. A friend of mine that edits for an online horror site. He was there, so it was fascinating because all of these people, there in one spot. And so here's a story within a story. So when I was a kid, I skipped lots of school. I had a whole lot going on. I skipped a lot of school. And my mom one time brought me back a book. I was like, I was legit sick or something. And she brought me a paperback when they had paperback racks. And she, brought me a book home to read. And it was a paperback called The Cipher from a woman named Kathy Koja. No idea anything about anything. Read it and just absolutely adored it and just devoured it, and fell in love with Kathy Koja's style. And so she is, one of the kind of parents of my writing. It's her, King, Lovecraft, Barker, Toni Morrison, Kathy Koja. There's some others that are kind of circle around it, but those were kind of the foundational voices that really made me passionate about reading and writing and storytelling. So seeing that she was there, I had to go. And and I'm a nervous Nelly, and I don't like talking to people. I'm not great at it, which is funny that I do these conventions. So I had to thank her basically. Um, I didn't have any thought in my head like, oh, she gonna be my buddy. It wasn't that at all. It was that I wanted to thank her for her inspiration to me, and I think that's important to be able to do that. We don't get a lot of chances to do that in our lives, and it's cool to be able to get that opportunity to thank someone for their influence. So I introduced myself and thanked her for that, and so she and I talked for a few minutes, and she had mentioned that this was happening in, Stoker Con was happening in Grand Rapids in 2019, and it just blew my wig back because for years I've wished World Horror would come to Detroit. I mean, I don't have any falsehood in my head that it would ever come to some place like Flint because Flint's just too small. And World Horror doesn't exist anymore. Stoker kind of took its place, and next year it's going to be in the UK. So that it came to Michigan at all is pretty amazing. So I had to be there. I had to come, and it was kind of a journey to get here. So it's like I say, it's neat to be able to be here, and it's been great. Like I say, no one's been shitty. There's a library event that was like yesterday and today, and the librarians that I met were very nice. Like everyone's been very cool. Like people have asked me about my books. No one's given me attitude. No one's been kind of crappy about anything. Which you would hope that would be a general thing. I know it's not, but you would like to think that people are positive. I mean, there's some jackasses, or jackassy people at this thing. Go fig. I mean, but there's a lot of people. I mean, there's definitely some egos, and some kind of like people that believe they're in a different stratosphere than other people like me who are nobodies. And hey, good for them. Like I got no time for that, so good for them. Like I'm glad they're doing their thing today. Today they had an ice cream social, which is really funny, / mass author signing. So that was interesting. Like all the authors that are kind of there as guests of some sort, or authors of note, had tables and we're doing free signings and stuff, and that was pretty amazing. I mean, you don't see that kind of thing. I mean, and again, like I'm trying to think of, because these are all like, I don't know, Stephen King, like he's in Clive Barker, they're like the higher tier, like, so this is like mid-level, like writers who you have to also mention though, who have had influence on people who have like, I mean, Robert R. McCammon's here, and his Swan Song is a brilliant novel, absolutely brilliant. So there are some great voices, and like again, I feel weird kind of slotting them, but so it's kind of like, imagine, um, gosh, I'm trying to think, Aerosmith and Dokken and Poison and all of these huge bands doing signings at one place. Like it's one of those weird things, like or actors or something. Like it's conventions is where you get that, but this is something different because they're all in one spot. It was all free. It was really cool. Like it's a neat. It's neat that fans kind of can get that. And I mean, Stoker Con's expensive. Like it is hella expensive for the weekend. I mean, they offer a ton of programming, like absolutely. So I'm not saying that's not throwing shade at what they offer, but I mean it's very expensive. It's like I think $265 is what I saw. So it's definitely expensive. But this was free, so if you were just like in the hotel or wanted to come by, you could come and get an autograph for free. That's pretty cool. So I had gone over, I've been lucky enough, in these past few months to kind of correspond with Miss Koja back and forth and just kind of get to know her a little. And so she and I had talked yesterday, and I went to go and say hey, hello to her today. And she got busy, so I disappeared and came back, and I saw F. Paul Wilson, who was the writer of The Keep. And I stopped, and it's funny, I thought about doing this earlier, and I kind of, internally laughed it off. So when I did World Horror Con, I read a story, and I want to say it was a story called Rust. And I still like the story, but it was definitely, it was 05, so it was not the same writer I am today. And I read it and stuff and did my thing. So later that day, evening, I was in the elevator, and it turned out only one other person was in there, and it was F. Paul Wilson. F. Paul Wilson had been on the panel. They had kind of a panel, listening to the stories. It wasn't any. I don't think there was any awards or something, but whatever. I can't remember. Maybe there was for best story. There might have been. There might have been an award for best story. Now I think about it, it's hard to remember. But unprovoked, he said, I liked your story. That's all he said. It wasn't anything earth-shattering, but it meant something to me. Even if it was bullshit, it meant something to me because it was an act of kindness to a kid that was there. He had one book. Like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing there. It meant something to me, and it still does. Because again, we devalue acts of kindness and small acts of kindness. It's funny that I've gotten great responses and reactions from people just saying, "Hey, how you doing? How's your day going?" at this thing, because we don't do that anymore. We're not. We kind of keep to ourselves and look down and ignore one another. So that meant something to me. So when I walked past, I saw Mr. Wilson standing by himself. So I stopped and kind of, hey, it's like, hello, like, how are you? I'm good. And I said, it's not going to mean anything to you, but in 2005, I read a story and he's blah, blah, and I told him kind of thing, and he gave me a very, like, okay kind of a look, and I said, just, I know you don't remember, but it was a small act of kindness, and it meant the world to me, so thank you. And I shook his hand, and he said, oh, well, you're welcome, and I walked away. It's like, I'm not going to make him feel awkward if I can avoid it, or any more awkward. Like, I didn't need to do anything else, like, but I felt like I wanted to do and had to do that, because again, we don't get a chance to thank people for the kindnesses that they do, and we should, because that means something. But yeah, like, they did this big signing, and that was pretty cool. Everybody seemed to have a great time. Lots of people. It's great seeing that many authors. I wondered how I wonder about because there had to be an author or two or several. Like, what if you're the dude or the gal that set up and you're like, yeah, free signing, and no one fucking comes to your table? Like, shit. I even signed two things. Two things? I don't know. I signed something. So even I got signed something. So I don't know. It's just funny. May have just signed the one thing, but still, like, you hope they didn't go through that. And it's funny seeing lots of familiar faces of people I know on the Facing book. I've met a lot of people digitally via the kind of bizarro group people that I know online, which has been interesting. There's festivities tonight, and I think I'm peacing out on them, which is kind of a bummer, like, that I'm not partaking in the whole experience. But I'm also just not up for it. That's just me. It's been fun, though. I'm not sure if it's a show for everybody, because it's so writer-centric, and they're so, like, the panels are just, like, there's tons of panels and tons of room, lots of readings. I get to do a reading tomorrow. I'll read it for the podcast after I do it, and I'll post it. It's a story called Ball that I had to rework quite a bit to make sure I could fit into the 15 minutes. Christ help me if I fucking go over 15 minutes. I don't know what the fuck they'll do. Like, shoot me or stop me. It's like, and you're done. I don't know. So I'm going to have to fucking be real tight. But, there's tons of, like, the occultant books and the haunted places. And this is, like, tons of cool, panels with great writers on them discussing it. So, if you're into this, like, it's a great convention, but it's just one of those things. It's a niche thing. 2 more days left. And by 2 more days, I have one more full, and then, Sunday it ends at 12 is when the vending ends, and 1 is when the show ends. So it's 1.5 days basically, and then I get to go back to my regular life. But these shows are neat like that, though. It's because this is so far from real life, and it is interesting. Because I've heard a few people, like, were kind of grumbling because some of the nominees aren't here, and they're like, oh, well, he couldn't get his day job off. And it's like, that's a lesson I learned in World Horror, is how many authors who are popular authors, who are read authors, who have publishers, because that just blew my mind that they have a publisher, and they have day jobs. That's just the nature of the world. That's people don't get rich writing. I mean, let's face it. So it's a cool show, though. We'll see how the next couple of days go. I'm having fun. They put on a nice show from what I can tell, like from my end. Um, it's a beautiful facility, wonderful show, some great people. I don't know that I'd say that I've made any friends, but I've met a lot of cool people. Given out a lot of cards, sold some books, which I did not expect. So you get no complaints from me. Um, it's just it's nice that it exists. It's funny too. Before I go, it's interesting. It's interesting, like to meet all of these people and talk to them and stuff and see where they're from, and then I think of Flint and how many talented people we have in Flint, how many authors we have in Flint, how many artists, how many poets, how many musicians, like talented people that deserve and have notice and have gotten notice. So it's interesting. I don't know if Flint draws them or they were always there or what. You know, it's kind of neat. It's interesting, to be sure. But that's my little podcast for the day. I hope you are well, friend, and I will do another update, either a last update of how I thought the whole show went when it's done, or I will just do a podcast where I read the story I'm reading tomorrow, Ball. Um, let's hope it goes well. That could be a bummer for sure. You take care, friend, and have a good night. Scary music.